It's okay, little guy. I'm not going to hurt you. Yet. Hello. Now, there are a couple of sensors that I've been using in recent videos that a few of you have asked about, so I thought I'd give you a little tour of one of them. The Apollo AIR-1 multi-sensor. Now, Apollo Automation reached out to me a few weeks ago and asked if I'd wanted to give their stuff a bit of a road test. But I'm not going to test their products. I'm going to test their whole reason for existence as a company. So let's examine what you're up to. This video should not only tell you a bit about this product and about Apollo Automation, but more importantly, it'll reveal the kind of traits that you should look out for in a device firm, and the ones to avoid when investing in your smart home. I'll also show you the AIR-1 multi-sensor in detail and tear the guts out of this poor little fellow. And finally, I'll talk about how I'm using this in my house and why you might want to have one of these things yourself. So, let's dive in. Right, you're wanting a smart device for your home, and there's a myriad different companies out there, most of which you haven't heard of before. How do you know what kind of company traits to look for? And implicit in this, the ones to avoid. With this in mind, Apollo Automation are as close to my benchmark of a great company as I could hope. So let me talk you through precisely why that is. The first thing is that they're transparent. They expose everything for review. Their code, their hardware, their CAD files, their components. And this lets you know exactly what you're getting, and it gives you complete control over your device. Just as an example, I wanted to 3D print an enclosure for the sensor. And because all the STL files are available on their site, I was able to model one easily. This super transparent nature is a breath of fresh air and is something I specifically look for. The next thing is that they integrate. So this integrates like a dream to Home Assistant. I actually timed it and it took 43 seconds from plugging it in to having it running in Home Assistant with all the sensors visible. It's just easy and a breeze to use. They're free as well. Now, I don't mean they're a charity. I mean it's free as in speech, not beer. This is an important distinction. When you set it up, it's yours. No cloud dependencies, no hoovering up of your data, no flaky app or no pop-ups or ads. You're free to use it as you see fit. And then the last thing is that they're just passionate. As a company, they're engaged and passionate about their products. It's theirs. So you can see this in every interaction, forum post and email. And this again is something that dies in larger corporates. People are just doing a job. But this is their baby and it shows. So I'm not even saying to buy anything from Apollo Automation. That's for you to decide. What I'm saying is just visit their site for a completely different reason. There's a link in the description. Just have a nose around. Get a feel for what a transparent, passionate and open company is like. And what I want to do is create this helpful jar in your mind. So when you're next about to purchase from a company that isn't like this, you'll get a spidey sense, a suspicion. Why aren't they telling you the components they're using? Why wouldn't they share their API? Why is their documentation hidden behind a portal? Developing this sense will save you hundreds of pounds of wasted purchases. And as for you, Apollo Automation, just keep doing what you're doing. Let's look now at the product itself. How does it stack up? And can't I just do it all myself? Isn't it just a bunch of ESP chips and sensors bunged together? Well, yes, it is. Indeed, their open source documentation reveals in explicit detail what they've used. And if you're of that mindset, I'd strongly advise you do it. Go for it. It'll be a great opportunity to learn and dive into the world of electronics and smart home automation. But I suspect you'll also learn it's also a lot harder and more expensive than you think once you start stacking sensors. And this is where the Apollo automation stuff is actually really good value, I think. If all you want is a temperature sensor, well, grab an ESP32, a DHT22 and some wires and you're away. That's probably £10 all in. However, you often have these situations where you just want a total battery of sensors, 5, 10, 15 and more. So in my bedroom, I want to measure temperature for the heating. And I obviously want to measure humidity and carbon dioxide levels and dust levels and so on. This is where specialist products like this come into their own, as they've dealt with the complexity for you and packed it into a tiny form factor. It's really quite clever how much they've squeezed in. Really clever, in fact.
Wouldn't you like to see how clever? Don't break their poor product apart, Katie, but think of all the lovely little sensors in there. Justin will be mad at you if you gut his lovely sensor. You know you want it. You want to feel those sensors, short-circuit those chips.
It's time to open you up. So, let's have a look at what they're hiding in here. They've just kept it extremely compact. You know, this box is something like 61 millimeters by 61 and then 30 millimeters tall, I think. And so it's really impressive given the amount of sensors that are in here. So I've got these ARGBs here, and that just is great because you can have some colour control. Instead of just a boring red light, you've got a lot more flexibility here for the colours to represent different meanings. So you could have green, amber, red, purple, blue, meaning all sorts of different things about the air quality or the temperature. Like it. In fact, this CO2 sensor here, that, I just thought, what's the point in that? I don't need that. But when I looked into it, I realised that I could use that for something that's been bothering me for years. So I'll tell you about it later. But there's also another example here. The SEN 55. This is a great little guy. He's an environmental sensor node. All of these sensors have a lifespan with their mechanical parts and little fans and more. But these are really high quality components. Indeed, they don't need it to have included that. In fact, I know exactly what a corporation would have done. Welcome to this week's profit maximisation planning meeting. Firstly, Apollo automation. You're on mute. What the heck is this and who designed it? What is it? Well, we're going to be taking out the addressable RGBs straight away. And what are you doing putting 3 in there? We are going to be putting in LEDs, single colour ones, cheap, red. That's the cheapest of all. Yeah, whatever. There will be a bunch of customers who that limits, but who cares? It's worth it for the extra money. And I see a SEN 55 in there. What? I want to see the plank who came up with that in my office straight after this meeting. They last about 10 years. What were you thinking? How are we going to make money in the meantime? What we need to do is chuck in a cheaper particulate sensor. There's loads of way cheaper versions. Then, temperature and humidity. Well, we can just use the sensor from the SCD40. Yeah, it's half as accurate, but the stupid consumer won't have a clue. Until the particulate sensor breaks in a couple of years. Just in time for our brand new product to be released, which will look a lot like the last one. And how much are we paying for this ominous music to constantly play? Oh, sorry. I don't know what came over me there. Anyway, I'll stop poking this poor little device, but It's a lovely piece of engineering. And if you want to get an air quality sensor, this is the sort of thing you should look for. I'll attach a link to the description. Now, finally, let's go through some examples of why you might want one of these in your home. Well, temperature and humidity sensor. Now, that's simple. Use it to understand more about heat cycles in your home. Control the heating, graph the annual trends. Does it feel colder than last year in this room? Carbon dioxide sensors. Now, this is the one I'm actually personally most excited about. I didn't expect it to be useful at all. But when I looked into it, I discovered that, well, I often wake up groggy and tired. And on looking into this, I found that modern homes may be insulated well, but they're often prone to build-ups of carbon dioxide as a result. And too high carbon dioxide levels leads to drowsiness and tiredness. Now, if you wake up tired or if you feel zonked after working at your PC all day, you'll be amazed at how handy it is to know the CO2 levels and just open the windows. Then we've got the dust levels. Is it time to vacuum? Pollen levels. All of these can become sensors that you can understand precisely or trigger actions off. We've got particulate matter levels. This alone should be mandated in workshops and garages. What is the level of PM1, PM2.5, PM4 and PM10 particles in the air that you're breathing? What about the VOCs? Set this little dude to flash red when the levels are high, and this will be a valuable kick up the cunt fun to put on a mask. Or open a window or just step out of the room for a bit. As anyone who knows who works with wood or high VOC paints, glues and so on, this is actually life-saving capability. It goes on and on. It's just a really universal toolkit of data that you can use for all sorts of things now and in the future. It really is a Swiss Army knife of air sensors. That's it. But now that I've shared what I think, what do you look for in a company when you're buying smart products? And how do you think you could use this? As you know from my other videos, I'm going to be using this in my workshop without a doubt. I'm using it in my PC case to trigger automatic dust cleaning in the room. And I'm also using it in my bedroom to monitor the carbon dioxide levels. So now I'm excited to know if you have any other ideas or thoughts on this. So please do share those so that we can all continue to inspire each other. Thank you and see you next time.